Hi, folks. We are back. This is the Weiner Wellness Week, the James W. Weiner Memorial Wellness Week, the Spring Fling version. Today is Friday, and we're going to kick it off today with our girl in Tampa, and that is Natalie Hensgen. See, and Natalie, we had Rashid on, right? And he was our guy in Southeast Florida, our guy in Atlanta, and our guy in the Northeast. So where's Rashid was always the question. But we know where Natalie is. She's on the west coast of Florida. She goes from Tampa all the way down to Naples for Nutritional Frontiers,
And
veteran in the industry.
I go
And
all the way up to
today,
Lake City too. The whole
there you go. Good. But she's a veteran on the industry. Has been a year with Nutritional Frontiers already. And so she's going to share her knowledge with us today, continuing our discussion on SPMs. And this is such a vital new addition to the line. It's such a powerful nutrient that we've actually talked about it. You know, we had Todd Parker on talking about it. He's our source of the SPMs. Natalie's had a lot of experience with them throughout her career already. So without further ado, Natalie, welcome aboard. Morning.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me. I love SPMs, which is why I chose to talk about them. I launched them into the medical world in 2017. And
Okay.
I've just seen so many miraculous cases with SPMs, which is why I love them. My two favorite molecules are SPMs and DMG. I feel like everybody needs them.
Ah,
Just like
that's great.
SPMs
That's
and
great.
DMG, get down with me. Let's go, right?
Uh-huh. And
um,
those are also they're the anchors, the cornerstone to Dr. Tracy Straub's alphabet soup protocol, right?
They sure are. So
All
we
right.
definitely agree
All
on those
right.
two. I know she likes the CBD too. I like CBD, but
Yeah.
my favorite two are SPMs and DMG for everybody, including my dog, which we'll talk about. So I have my
Okay.
screen up. Can you see it?
And there it is.
You can see it. Okay. And this is just
Yep, we got it.
a little uncomfortable for me because all I can see is my screen. So I feel like I'm talking to my computer now. So feel free to ask questions as we go along. But you know what are SPMs? And I really feel like they are one of the most amazing medical innovations that we have seen that no one has heard about. Because I mean, unfortunately, functional medicine doctors are not everywhere, and even the ones that are using SPMs don't talk about them to all of their patients. But I really think there's an amazing nutrient that everybody needs to hear about, and the research is there. There's over 30 years of research on specialized pro-resolving mediators. And if you
That's interesting. 30 years
30 years of
and we're
research,
just wow.
yeah. So
Been
Dr.
late to the
Charles
market.
Serhan is the PhD that really discovered them and has been studying them, but they are new to medicine. They were launched in 2017. But by
Mm-hmm.
this point, enough people have researched them and published studies on PubMed, which is a very credible source in the medical world. There's over 200 published studies. So if you go to PubMed and you search resolvins or pro-resolving mediators, and then you can even put a condition in there. You could put COVID in there, and studies will pop up, or anything that you want to research. There's tons and tons of data. So that's the interesting part about SPMs. But I mean, how many people have really heard of them?
You're right. I mean, that's so true. Most people that I've come in contact with have not. And, I have to be honest, as much as I've been in this industry, I didn't know about them either until just this last year. So I love it when a nutrient like this, makes its way onto the stage. And boy, what an impact.
Yes, it's great. And you know, the interesting thing about SPMs is that we can make them, and we do make them endogenously in our bodies. And so
Right.
we do have them naturally, but unfortunately, long term chronic inflammation or even metabolic disease hampers our ability to do that. So that's why you would
Mm,
take an SPM on top of being able to make them. But
mhm.
there's lots of new studies coming out. One of the things that I found interesting is Dr. Serhan has recently discovered that when you stimulate the vagus nerve, all sorts of different types of resolvins are released. And he feels like that even though we've already seen so much information on them and so many benefits, there's still a lot that we don't know about them and how many other benefits we could see from them.
Right. And Natalie, the vagus nerve has really only come into play in the last few years too, with the whole gut brain connection, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I kind of already said this, but why do we need to take them if we make them? Because studies have actually shown that people with obesity are deficient. They don't have the ability to make them. And there was a study shown with patients that had metabolic syndrome that even if they took a fish oil, they were not able to, the whole like lipid mediator pathway where you convert SPMs from fish oil to the actual active ingredient resolvins is compromised. So they're not able to do it for whatever reason. So that is why you would need to take them to supplement. And then, of course, different injuries, surgeries can cause your body to not be able to make them as well either. And what we have found is that there are a lot of different conditions that people have where they are showing low levels of SPMs, which is probably why the conditions are being exposed and you're experiencing the pain. So some of these conditions where people have reduced levels in their system, as you can see here, metabolic syndrome, endometriosis, arthritis, lupus, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease. So these are a lot of the conditions that people are expressing symptoms because they have low levels of SPMs.
And Natalie, that looks like a menu of what's going on in health in America today.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it for sure. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there, and these are also really great conditions. People with these conditions would benefit from taking SPMs.
Right.
Yeah. So, what are they? How do they work? What's the whole process? So, if you think about it, when you have an injury, whether it's an infection or a cut, as we're seeing right here in the first part here, your body has a response to that, right? Ooh, what did I just do? That I did not mean to do. That's funny.
Yeah, it's all right.
So what we have really going on is we have an initiation phase when you have an injury or a cut. And this is like the whole initial response where some inflammation is good, right? But what our body has to do is to be able to take that and turn it off. So this is a normal response to inflammation or injury, right? So your body releases white blood cells, and it's almost as soon as that happens, you start to release macrophage, would come in and clean it all up. But what happens is a lot of people with long-term chronic illness are not able to turn this off, which brings you back to balance or homeostasis, right? And when that happens, you end up with a response that looks more like this. So you end up with long-term chronic inflammation, which leads to a lot of the conditions that we just mentioned. The other
That's a great
thing,
slide.
yeah, the other thing is that people that are taking COX-2 inhibitors like Tylenol or ibuprofen, they actually block the whole resolution phase and they block healing. So their healing time actually slows. And this is more of the curve that you're getting if you're taking some type of COX-2 inhibitor for pain. Something to think about. Yes.
Well, it's interesting because it actually, if you're taking these things for pain, you're actually producing the exact opposite of what you really want to do.
Exactly.
You can't resolve the inflammation. Right. Wow.
Exactly.
Good slide. I love that.
Exactly. Yes. So while some inflammation is good, the response to it is important. And that's why the SPMs really come into that. And I think I've kind of talked about that. So I'm kind of skipping through these a little bit faster. But some examples of chronic inflammation in patients that really benefit, where we've seen studies from the SPMs. I mentioned some of these, but periodontal disease, there were studies in pigs actually, where they used the SPMs and the gum line got better, but also the bone regenerated. So it helped with the bone coming back. And you're seeing ocular disease. It helps with that. Autoimmune, it helps with cancer. There's lots of studies on PubMed for that, as well as pulmonary disease.
Yeah, but every one of these are chronic inflammation, and I mean that's the cause, the single most prevalent cause. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And then I kind of jumping the gun on my slides here. So what I mentioned before with NSAIDs, they actually become resolution toxic because they are blocking
Yeah.
the enzyme. And that's kind of what we're seeing in this slide here. So a lot of people ask me, what are SPMs? Well, they are a derivative. They're downstream from EPA, DHA. So a lot of people ask me, well, why can't I just take fish oil and make my own SPMs, because fish oil is less
Right.
expensive. So people tend to want to go that route. Well, you can,
Right.
as long as your body's able to complete the whole metabolic process from taking EPA, DHA and breaking it down through all of the pathways to get to the end point, which are the resolvins, the myrisins, the protectins, and the lipoxins, which are the active nutrients that actually make a difference for people. And one of the things that we're seeing in this slide is you have these enzymes, which if you start from EPA, DHA, you have to break it down into the 18, the 17, and the 14 DHA, which is the active ingredient in our SPMs. And then from that point, you still have to have the 15 locks and the 5 locks. And if that is blocked or not present, then you do not get to the resolvins. So that's why it's so important to not take COX-2 inhibitors when you're taking this product, but also why some people just can't get to the end phase of
Right.
SPMs.
Wow.
So, does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You need these things to be produced. You take something for pain instead of it, and it actually blocks them from being produced. So you end up with chronic pain.
Yes. Yeah. I think this is a repeat of what we already said too. So one of the interesting things with the whole healing process, I showed you the initiation curve and the resolution curve. So one
Mm-hmm.
of the key aspects of SPMs and what they do that makes them so special is they take these M1 macrophages, which when you have an injury or an infection, they're what actually goes in and kind of attacks the site, creates the inflammation to kind of protect your body and starts to do like antimicrobial activity, starts to engulf pathogens. But you have to also stop that phase and shift into the resolving phase, where you have the MAC2 macrophages come in and they calm everything down. They create anti-inflammatory signaling. They engulf like dead cells, apoptic cells, debris. They engulf different pathogens. They engulf viruses. They've been shown to help clear out sepsis faster, clear
Wow.
out staph faster, E. coli, candida, and all of this. So the SPMs really promote the shift from M1 to M2. And this is a big deal for a
Mm.
couple of reasons. One of the things that we found during COVID, there are studies that show that COVID caused this whole excitatory, inflammatory response and really got the MAC ones going. And they were coming in, they're kind of like, they're fighting and they're angry and they're really in there battling. But what the SPMs did is just made them kind of calm down. It increased the M2s where they could go in and clean it up and like settle everything down. And what many of my practitioners saw is when they had patients that had active COVID, if they were on SPMs, they recovered much faster. We're seeing this happen as well with long haulers. It is helping them recover faster and get out of that brain fog and all that like leftover, those weird symptoms that they have. So they were really remarkable for anyone during COVID and even post COVID. And there are studies that show that. But the other area that this is really interesting for is anyone that's having surgery. So I have seen lots and lots of people that have been taking SPMs, and I recommend that you take them prior to surgery to get them into your
Mm-hmm.
system, right? And now there are studies coming out that's showing that when you have surgery, after surgery, you have much lower levels of the resolvins in your system to really help you clean it up afterwards. So taking SPMs prior to surgery and then dosing them high after surgery really helps people recover in a fraction of the time that people that don't take SPMs. And I've seen this over and over and over again. And now the studies are proving it. And I know one of the things that doctors have concerns with is taking anything prior to surgery that causes, your blood that's going to infect affect like coagulation or blood thinning, things like that are going to impact the
Yeah,
surgery. So I do know that SPMs do not impact coagulation or blood thinning. So they won't
correct.
impact it. However, our SPMs do have 500 milligrams of EPA DHA in them, along with the pro-resolving mediators. So if a surgeon's concerned about 500 milligrams of EPA DHA, I would definitely listen to them. So
Yes, then we would need to also help that surgeon understand that that amount of EPA DHA is not going to thin blood. We don't think, and this is my personal opinion, I don't
mhm.
think a natural substance can thin your blood. I think it improves blood flow. Okay, it improves viscosity. Doesn't thin it. Only a chemical can thin your blood, but it's just my 2 cents. Go ahead.
That's okay. But I do still recommend taking
Yeah.
them prior to surgery at higher doses. If
Yes.
the surgeon wants you to stop a week ahead of time, you can do that and then start high doses immediately afterwards. The
Right.
patient will
Right.
have less pain. The other thing that the MAC2s do is they release growth factors that help with tissue regeneration. That's the other reason that people heal so
Mm,
much faster
that's
afterwards.
great.
And with surgery, we're always concerned about infection. So if it's clearing out sepsis and debris and anything that
Wow.
can
Yeah.
get in there, right, then less
Right.
impact. But I've heard stories of
Wow.
people that had rhinoplasty. When you get rhinoplasty, you get the black eyes.
Yeah.
Like they healed. The black eyes disappeared in days versus weeks, right?
Mm,
Um, I've heard of people that have had rotator cuff surgery, and that takes about 6 months to heal afterwards. And someone actually said that they went out and went bow hunting like 2 months after their rotator cuff surgery. So I've just seen it over and over again after surgeries. People heal so much faster. So this is one area that I highly recommend it if people have that coming up.
you know what, Natalie? I think people need to understand too that the word surgery and the word injury are interchangeable. A
Yeah,
surgery is an injury,
it is.
right? Yeah, they're cutting tissue. That's going to produce an inflammatory response like an injury would. So this is
Exactly.
great stuff.
So, one of the things that I was thinking about this is that when the studies showed that pre-surgery versus post-surgery, when they actually studied
Mm,
the patient to see their levels of SPMs that they had, post-surgery, the levels were significantly lower. And my thought process is, well, they just went through this huge, huge trauma, right? You're
right.
seriously damaging tissue, causing major inflammation and everything else that's going on. That's a
Exactly.
traumatic event, right? I think they
Right.
probably just like burned through all their SPMs there, and so they're
Exactly.
deficient. So it's like
Exactly.
more of a case study for people to actually use them. So
Yes.
this is just a great visual that shows really white blood cells. The one on the left was placebo, so they did not get to use SPMs. The one on the right was someone that had been given SPMs. And what you're seeing is the white blood cell on the left really isn't responding that well. Whereas the one on the right that had the SPMs, it responded much better. It had like a more calm effect, was able to like clear everything out. So it just really enhances your body's natural immune system so that you can actually go in and um, create a better phagocytosis response and clean up all the pathogens. So sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, but that's like I think of the
Sure
macrophages
is.
like Pac-Man that go in and clean everything up, and that's really kind of what this is
Mm,
showing.
excellent. Wow, that's great. I love that slide. You've got some great slides here. This is good stuff.
Thanks. So, um, and as you mentioned, SPMs have demonstrated potent immunoregulatory and anti-inflammatory activities, such as inhibiting the production of pro-inflammatory mediators and regulating white blood cells. That's what we just really talked about, which
Right.
results in resolving that inflammation and protecting organs and stimulating tissue regeneration, so you heal so much faster. Um, and this is really just a copy of the study, a proof source that talks about how SPMs really helped regulate the MAC response during COVID-19 active cases, which helped patients respond so much faster. And I did hear that from many, many of my offices.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
And we also feel it's a very important protocol post shot or jab or whatever you want to call it, correct?
yes. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different things with that. But again, if you have an inflammatory response, you're having an immune response, your body's trying to react to that. And this
Right,
SPM really is just helping your body address what's going on in a more efficient way so that you can
right.
resolve it and not have a whole inflammatory response to it. Um, so, one of the interesting things about SPMs, one of the really great areas that we see response with this is autoimmune. People that have
Hmm.
pain like osteoarthritis, people that have pain from fibromyalgia. Um, and so there have been several studies, both animal and human, that show SPMs make a difference with pain. There was a
Hmm.
4-week study. The patients took 6 SPMs a day. Actually, it was 2 a day, sorry, for 4 weeks. And the interesting thing, and it's so, we forget how pain really impacts people in their lives. So the
Right.
quality of life for the patients that were in this study that was significant. One of the things that I find interesting is not only, you can see down here, like their pain intensity went down 29%,
Right.
which is big. And
That's
pain
huge. Yes.
interference also went down. But if you forget how pain affects somebody's life and their lifestyle, right? So the interesting thing is that the physical function in the patients in the study went up. Social functioning went up. I mean, you feel better, you want to go out, you want to be around people. Depression goes down, fatigue goes down because your body's not having to deal with, everything that's going on because it's resolving it better. You sleep better when you're not in pain. So SPMs have been amazing for people with chronic pain. And I think that you have a example of that? Was that your thumb, or was that somebody that you knew that had
Oh,
pain?
no, that was me.
That was you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was me. Thumbs. Couldn't use them. Couldn't use them. It was built. I mean, some of those things built up over time. Wasn't an injury. Wasn't a trauma where I slammed my thumbs on or whatever. And it was just over time. And boy, I'll tell you what, a week or so on the SPMs, and all of a sudden it was gone, and I had full range of motion. I couldn't bend at that knuckle for the longest time, and it just improved. It cleared it up immediately, and it's been this. I've been, I still take them ongoing. It's now part of my regimen with taking SPMs at a maintenance dose. But still, it's gone. I mean, it's amazing. I tried laser, I tried chiropractic, I tried CBD, I tried everything. Nothing was working until I did the SPMs.
Yes.
Incredible.
And so that is what I hear over and over and over again from a lot of my doctor's offices, that they have patients that have been taking different things for inflammation, for pain, a lot of autoimmune cases, and they just don't quite get it to go away. And then when they added the SPMs to it, that is the one thing that just kind of put them over the edge and really resolved that pain. It just disappeared.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it's because you're really resolving the issue and not just dampening the pain. You're actually addressing the core
Right.
cause of it and allowing the body to heal. So that's why I love SPMs. This was actually an 8-week study, multiple centers. There were 6 centers that participated. It was open label. It was patients that had chronic inflammation. There were 52 patients, male and female. And some of the interesting markers in this is there was a 43% reduction in HSCRP, which is a major inflammatory marker. It's also a marker for cardiovascular disease. So a
Yeah.
43%
C-reactive protein. Yeah.
reduction in 4 weeks is a big deal.
Wow.
That's a really
That's
big deal.
huge. Well, that's C-reactive protein, right? That's
Yeah.
that's a big marker for inflammation, especially like you said, for cardiovascular health.
Yeah.
43%. A 10% reduction is considered statistically significant. This is 43%.
Yes. So it's really hard to do.
Really
it's a
hard to
big
get
deal.
that high.
And then on the right side, you see that there was a 46% reduction in the pain scores. So baseline, this was like a survey where they fill
Yeah.
it out and they measure their pain score based on survey. So a reduction in 46% in 4 weeks and 50% by week 8.
Hmm.
So that's amazing. And so here's my personal story.
All
this is
right.
this is my little guy who means everything to me. He's a 12-year-old Cocker Spaniel, and he does sleep with me. My bed's kind of high. And what happened with Sam is he reached a point that he could not get up in the bed
Okay, wait a second. Hold
himself.
on, Natalie. Every woman in the center just turned their attention to the screen to hear this. Okay.
We don't care about people, but we care about our
No.
pets.
Yeah, you know.
But hey, this just goes to show it's good for animals and it's good for humans, right?
Right.
So poor little Sam, 12 years old, starting to get arthritis, couldn't get up in bed with me. And so instead of like going and sleeping on the floor, he would sit next to the bed and growl until I put him up in bed. And he gets up and down 4 or 5 times a night. So I'm not getting any sleep. So I was like, this has to give, right? So I started giving him one SPM a day. And I really didn't pay any attention to it. But after a couple of days, he was getting up in the bed by himself.
So, how did you get it in them?
Well, you can puncture them and squirt them in their food, or I like
Mhm.
to use Kerrygold butter.
Ah, good choice.
But whatever works for your dog. You can puncture it and like squirt it in their food. Um,
Okay.
and they may not notice. They probably won't notice. But him, I just
Yeah.
I just put it in butter and give it to him.
Oh,
But in a
good.
matter of
You're
a
gonna
couple of
see.
days, he was getting up there by himself, which is really great. And then of course I would forget to give it to him. And then we would go through the whole thing all over again. So it's like, oh. And
Ah, good.
the other thing that I find interesting about him, Joe, is that he had the beginning stages of cataracts.
Mm.
And now I don't see
Mm.
them. And I do have to go to a vet to get that confirmed because I personally have not seen studies with SPMs and cataracts. But I did hear Dr.
Wow.
Lynn Bransowitz talking about his personal experience where he added SPMs.
Yes,
And a year
that's
later, he
correct.
went back to his eye doctor, and the eye doctor's like, "What cataracts?" So I'm kind of curious
Yeah.
about that, but I really don't see them in him.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah,
Let's keep an eye on that and try to and see when you get that documented. We got to know about it. I mean, we'll think
yeah,
about it. Inflammation in the eyes, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
But the other thing that I
Mm,
give my dog too is I do give him DMG every day
of
because
course.
two reasons really because I don't know if you know this, but 50% of all dogs over the age of 10 will end up getting cancer. And
Hmm,
so
didn't know that.
I like to be preventative because I tell Sam he's got to give me 20 years and he's not going to get there by himself. So he
Well,
gets, huh?
you're right on the money. You're right on the money because all the original studies on DMG were done on animals, horses and dogs. That's where all the data originally came from. And it was improving their quality of life. It was, reversing conditions, giving racehorses, an edge, and that's where it all started.
Yeah. So I like to be preventative. That's why he gets them every day. And that's why I take them every day. I love them. Those are my two favorite nutrients, as I told you. So we do live by that rule.
Yes, good, love it.
And then I just pulled a couple of studies off of PubMed just to kind of show people that the data
Yep.
really is there if you dig for it. If your doctor's not familiar with them, there's lots of research. Um, these are on autoimmune. There's one on lupus. There are studies on cancer specifically. Like this one is talking about proliferation. I can't talk this morning. Cell proliferation
Great.
and estrogen receptor response with
Mm,
breast cancer, and how the
mm,
D2 resolvins may impact
mm,
tumors and surrounding tissue. So um, don't hold me to these, but these are studies that are out there on PubMed. They are public studies. And you see the
mhm.
one at the top that says resolve and suppress tumor growth and enhance cancer therapy in people that were actually having chemotherapy.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, something
Great.
to.
I'm just thinking, the alphabet soup protocol. I mean, we know how DMG can affect immune issues like cancer. We know SPM. We knew that CBD had a positive effect on preventing breast cancer from moving to metastasis. Those studies are all out there. So these three formulas combined have to have. I mean, what a powerful impact they're having.
Yes. Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. Both, acutely, but even preventative, again, which is my
Right.
favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So just to kind of review, like who benefits from using SPMs, what conditions benefit from using SPMs. So I still love them for autoimmune. You saw the studies for IBS, leaky gut, it's going to impact that there. Um, Also, endometriosis is probably a better. It's probably a better slide for this. But anyways, lots and lots of benefits for using SPMs. And I would also say I always say there's not really a magic bullet. Like you can take whatever you want to, but if you don't incorporate lifestyle, then you're still
Mm-hmm.
contributing to the problem. So you do have to address your lifestyle, what you're eating, what you're putting in your body to make sure you're not causing the inflammation. I'm a
Right.
huge fan of detox as well. So making sure you keep your body clean, but then using targeted nutrition and using SPMs to help you get to resolution and resolving pain. That's really um, the big benefit there. And so our SPMs are made in a pharmaceutical grade facility that uses very, very stringent requirements in the production of it. Everything is third party tested. It's a very, very clean, high quality product, SPM. We have more of the pro resolvins in our SPMs than you will find in any other product on the market. We have 400 micrograms, and it includes the 18 Hepi, the 17 HDHA, and the 14 HDHA, which will break down to all of the important mediators, so the lipoxins, the resolvins, the myrisins, and the
Mm-hmm.
protectants. So you get everything that you need. A regular dose is 2 a day. If anyone is having an acute issue or they're just getting started on it, they can start with higher doses to get it into their system and get rid of
Mm-hmm.
pain and get more resolution faster. But regular dosing is 2 a day. Generally, for surgery, I recommend 4 twice a day. You can do 2 twice a day, you
Mm-hmm.
can do 3 twice a day, you can do 4 twice a day. There's no upper limit. So, I mean,
Right.
you can't overdose on this stuff.
Right.
So it's a matter of like what your pocketbook allows. Is what I
Yeah.
always say, right?
Yeah. When
Uh,
Todd Parker was on, he said the LD50 was just so far out of reach that it's impossible to overdose on or to have a toxic buildup of it or whatever you want to call it. It's natural. It's never going to hurt you.
exactly. And so I say that Weiner Wellness Week is having a special and take
Stock
advantage
up.
of it. That's what I would do. I mean, I stock up on them, and anytime you can get them on sale, which is this week. I don't know when
Yes.
does the sale end, Joe?
Well, it officially ends tomorrow, but there's a good chance it might extend a few days.
Okay.
So
So yes, it is a miracle
yeah,
moment.
you never know, but that's pretty easy bet. Yeah, they are on sale. They're 30% off during the Winer Wellness Week sale, so it's a perfect time to stock up on them. Before I let you go, Natalie, I want to go back to that slide number. Let's see, the one with the circle and all the conditions around. It's just a couple up from where you are. No, not all the way
Yeah,
back.
yeah, but I think this one was better.
Yeah, that one too. Yeah, again, that folks, this is a menu of what health in this country looks like today. If you don't, you've got to know somebody that has one or multiple of these conditions, or multiple people that do. If you don't yourself, this is how important this nutrient is. It's got to be in our lifestyle. It's got to be in your lifestyle and your family's lifestyle. And like Natalie said, not just for therapeutic, but for prevention. Don't get to these points. How do you do that? Through targeted nutrition, lifestyle changes, diet changes, you name it. You got to do the whole gambit, but this is a vital component. SPMs, as she said, number 1 and 2 with DMG. I can't disagree with that. That's got to be right up there. You know, I take my DMG with the CoQ10 in the and in the 600. So all I got to do is add the SPMs and I'm home free. So any parting words, any parting shots for us, Natalie?
I can't think of any, Joe.
I think you covered it all already. You did. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much taking time out of your day. You're busy, we know. And I hope it doesn't rain too much down there.
No, we need it. We want the rain.
Oh, you need it? Okay, good.
Yes, the palm
All
trees are
right,
looking
get
kind
it
of
now.
sad.
Get it now, not when I come down to work with you. So
Well, hopefully it rains every day. We like it like that down here in
yeah,
Florida.
like a little shower, right? You get a shower, then the sun comes back out.
You gotta cool it off.
I
Yeah.
know. All right, Natalie Hensgen, everybody, our the Nutritional Frontiers rep in West Florida, in the western side of Florida, west of the Gulf Coast, and great presentation, Natalie. We really appreciate it. Have a great day. Good to
Thanks,
see
Joe. You too.
See ya.
Bye-bye.